Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the
Hello.
There's so many of us. Hello, everyone.
It's so full. It's too many people.
So many people.
Look at
It's
the
great.
space.
We're back. The following.
We are.
Following up from an episode that we ran on the weekend with a bunch of amazing people, and Sarah is joining us now. In spirit on Sunday, but here now, and we can hear the voice of Wilder with us.
I have my voice back.
Haha.
So we
amazing.
are a little bit behind, unfortunately, due to some technical errors. So we're here now, but we shall.
We are here. Hello. Yes, it is wonderful to be here. Welcome, everybody, back to The Social Pillar, our ongoing conversation about the value of role-playing games in our community, crafts, cultures around the world. And to our millions of viewers, welcome. Before we get started, we would like to do acknowledgement of country. I am coming to you from Darug country, and we would like to pay our respects to elders past and present. It always was the Aboriginal land, and sovereignty was never ceded. And if anybody's watching this later or watching it now, that is a particularly important point as we head up towards a voice referendum. We also would like to extend our respects to any First Nations people who might be watching. They are the original storytellers. Speaking of storytellers and epic events, we have some epic human beings and some amazing storytellers here. Joining me this evening are my two normal co-conspirators, co-compatriots, brothers in arms. Who have we got? Now, we've changed our order, so I've got to point differently. So above me, who have I got?
Yes, it's me. Hello, it's Jared, and the Game Master Chef. I was playing Istrid, an Aasimar Paladin. And I am very keen to dive into this because it was quite the undertaking. So, yes.
Speaking of quite the undertaking, the person who was the undertaker, Ian.
Thankfully, didn't have to do much undertaking of characters here, but guys, welcome. Hi, Ian from Roleplay Experience here again, and last week for the massive exhibition game for Collecticon. I played Vlakith the Terrible, the Tyrant, and many other characters, and was your DM for the game. And I'm very much looking forward to recapping and just looking back at this with all of you here today. So it's good to be back. Thanks for leading.
It's always good to have him back. And also joining us for this wonderful evening, we're just going to continue going around. Paul, would you like to say hello?
Hello, I'm Paul, that guy from Collecticon, and I was playing Tobin Redfeathered on the weekend. And the cleric and someone with a very smart mouth.
It was very good. I am OMGM. I was playing Syrah, the Lizard Folk Artificer, because nobody can ever agree on how it's pronounced. The battle was ongoing and epic and will last until the end of days. Jared, Auntie Mimi, our wonderful person in the chat, says, you're a little hard to hear. Could you turn yourself up, please?
Absolutely. That was the one thing we did manage to do was a sound check. Thank you.
We didn't do a sound check, but that is okay.
I'll do it on the fly.
Amazing. On the fly. Speaking of flying, because that's a segue that makes sense, Steve. You can say hi.
That makes sense. Very little makes sense for Harado, the variant human sorcerer, but he did manage to get the kill in the end with a brave assist from Tobin, and great fun.
Yes. Excellent.
Only cost him his soul, it's fine.
I mean, realistically, was he using it? Capitalism? Anybody who's seen this stream before knows my feelings on capitalism. Probably don't need to go into it again. And now we are also joined very specially by one of our characters, one of our players, who was there more in spirit due to the unfortunate intercession of germs or viruses. Are germs viruses? I don't need to unpack that. Sarah.
Hi, I'm Sarah, or Smack. I was playing Wilder, who's a satyr monk from the Feywild and a cleric of the light as well. Unfortunately, yes, I had no voice, which made it rather impossible to play on Saturday. But as a maybe segue, Ian did a wonderful job of, at short notice, including managing to include Wilder in the story even though I wouldn't be there.
Had to find a way. So much work gone into it with you. So yeah,
you were there in spirit as well. I just saw you there in the chat.
A lot of prep.
Yeah. Well, let's start with that, because I think what we wanted to talk about tonight was our reflections on that game and how, because we're all DMs, we all run games. So I think that brings a really interesting perspective to a level 20 game and being players. But before we talk about players, I'm going to jump to Ian, because he certainly hasn't done enough thinking and work and talking already. How are you feeling after that game?
Get ready for the verbal diarrhea. Here it comes. Actually, I felt this week, this is actually from performing arts background, there's a term we use after you've done a big show. In the week after, you say, guys, you're going to have the post-show blues. You're going to feel weird. You're going to feel tired. You're going to feel emotional. It's just going to happen at weird times all week. I can't tell you guys, all week. This week has just been hard. But I'm about to go on holiday as well on the weekend for about 3 weeks.
That's
so
exciting.
I'm kind of glad that I've gone through this bit now. So, but it was a huge game. So I can't thank you guys enough for your stamina, and for anyone who watched it out there as well, guys in the chat. And I did put a lot of heart into it, because I wanted to pick up from the game last year in particularly, and I wanted to build on it. And there were some tech things that I learned from how I did this. We didn't get to see everyone all the time last year, and I thought there's some things I wanted to do to make sure we were all together as much as possible throughout the game and have a really good view. It was being an exhibition game, we wanted to have some damn good vision at whatever we could do. So
you did an amazing job. It looked fantastic. And it was such a shame we couldn't see everything that I know you put together.
Deliberately. That's teaser if we ever do something again.
if we can ever convince you to do it again.
Well, I think
counselling, some support,
we could do continue sort of like there, maybe investigate the rest of the palace that might be there, but
it's part of the life of a DM, though. You prepare all this stuff, and your players will explore 70% of that, and then try to explore another percent that you haven't prepared at all.
That's how many. Well, you guys go through that. Surely you've been through that too. Nods everywhere. Everyone's nods. Like, it's funny because for that I know that there's because you guys are about to come onto a game after this as well. So, Paul, I'm intrigued at how that goes for you as the DM.
Yeah.
It's that thing, but once we got to the end of it and that kind of...
Yes, they're about to chat up.
Yes. After this, we've got a dragon.
A red dragon.
A dragon.
Yes.
At level 3.
Yeah.
Level 3.
This is going to go so well for us.
What could possibly go wrong?
What could possibly go wrong? Well, I think, and that's actually, we should mention that our guests will have to be dropping off at some point, because they are all off to play a game and negotiate with this red dragon, which I'm very keen to hear how that goes. So we probably should actually ask your impressions of the game. And Paul, can I start with you? Because you actually didn't play in that game last year. How did you find stepping into a level 20 game as an incredibly experienced DM?
Well, I haven't actually played level 20 since 2nd edition.
Oh,
so that was a bit of a getting to re-know the spells as they are for 5th edition.
Yep.
And I was a little bit lost at the start, but I had enough background from Ian to be able to flounder along. There was a whole section there where my computer went funny and I didn't hear anything Ian said, but I kind of covered that in the end.
I didn't even notice that. So
I do recall there was a part that you mentioned, So I was trying to mime as best as I could. Anyway,
I just decided that Tobin wasn't listening.
It fitted well for the character. But I think, Paul, you've got a performance background as well. So did you find that helped when everything kind of faded? You're like, I'm just going to stick with the character who's not listening.
That's, you have to make it up whether you're a DM or an actor doing improv.
Yeah.
You have to make it up on the spot. And that's kind of natural when you've been on stage a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And probably a skill that we can all use. And how did you find fitting in with the group? as a new character?
I mean, I know all you guys, so it was fairly easy. It's just like I was a bit quiet at the start because I'm trying to work out the lay of the land, and where I fit into it.
Yeah.
But I think Tobin, I just played I'm not paying that much attention until I kind of got what was going on.
Yep.
Yeah.
I thought Tobin was a great character.
Oh yeah, Paul and I had a little chat about like how we could have a little bit of history and background together as well. So already being introduced to a character and having something to, narratively latch onto, I think was a good step in the right direction as well.
Yeah, that helped a lot.
Yeah, definitely. And Steve, I do want to get to you, but just frobbing off that, the Syrah and Wilder also had a little bit of a connection. So I'd like to talk a bit about how we made that work when Smack, you weren't able to make it. So I think that was a somewhat shorter notice invasion of the Body Snatchers.
It was.
A timeline of that, yeah.
Yeah, so in last year's game, Wilder and Syrah had this completely unplanned but really kind of intense moment in the game. And Sophie and I decided to play on that and see, what would happen after that with our characters and them talking and discussing stuff. So we'd come up with a few things. And then, I woke up on Saturday morning with very little voice. So I sent out some messages at about 6 a.m. Going, guys, it's not going to happen. And sent a message to Ian, which fortunately he, chose to take the bits that were helpful and ignore my 6 a.m. He would have just run away. Fortunately, he took that for the 6 a.m. thing it was. But, it was interesting that because we had sorted out kind of some of the interplay between Syrah and Wilder, that, bringing that to Ian, he was able to incorporate some of that. So on very short notice.
Yeah. And I've got to say, Ian, you did a magnificent job of turning that into a great story moment as well.
I hope so. I keep coming back. I mean, I don't know how this is for you guys as DMs as well, but I keep thinking, because I want to engage, I want to make sure everyone has a great time. Even if they can't turn up, I want to involve a character. And there's a whole thing, that's a whole topic for how do you involve characters for players who can't make it. But this is because it's a one-off, it's an exhibition, it's like a lead-in from this big one from last year. We've done all this effort to get in here. I thought, I can't leave Sarah out. This is like, and I remember this is the thing. So the day of, don't know what it's like for you guys, I was on as soon as I woke up and I'm like, it's here, it's happening, right, everything. Let's see what everyone's up to. Oh, okay, right. How do I deal with this like this? And just thought, well, we've got to involve her some way. And I thought, no, we can't let her just go out. So we talked about, and I'm so glad you shared that info, the hook, because we talked a bit about let's having hooks in here and how they can get involved. I'm so glad here for Tobin and Istrid, for you guys, Paul and Jared respectively, having a chance to just talk about that little bit of a back hook so that you guys had that kind of connection to start off. And that you guys had, and we're going to get to Steve in a moment because we had a chat before the day. But for this one, it was so good because I could see for Sarah, for Wilder and for Syrah.
I just realised how similar the names Syrah and Sarah are.
And it's not the same character, if there's a character.
Yeah, not even the same.
But the idea of Wilder was kind of looking up to Syrah and Syrah giving us some advice of you can step away. And there was a thing about Wilder wanting to step away from this is you follow your state and you do the right thing. Your duty was all about the duty and stuff. And she thought she's kind of feeling like a need to break out. And Syrah had given her that kind of, of course you can. You can do whatever you want. You can make your moment out of this. And so there was a point you said you wanted to do where you said something would happen and you could say, yeah, I've got this. And I think you said you give a wink to Syrah and then you jump in and do something.
I see her kind of, go, I got this. I'm going to follow my own instinct and do what Wilder feels is right. And got this. And give a nod, little wink to Syrah. So
Yeah.
you using that was incredible.
Well, it's fun. It's funny. I won't go into too much because we haven't got much time all together, and I'd rather hear from you guys because you haven't been here much. But those hooks that you gave, literally and deliberately linking it to the new characters you were interacting with, the Githzerai and the Githyanki. The Githzerai is a monk who was also going against her state and trying to break away to do right, to do better, and to follow her heart. And I thought, what if this is a connection for her? And at the same time, we want Wilder and Ciro to keep connected, to say, hey, look, this is what's going on down here. Vlakith is here. Or no, she's not. She's headed off. She might be heading to you guys. And so it kind of gives also a bit of a bigger picture to what else is going on in the bigger story. So that was a kind of fun thing to kind of, I'm really glad that got to work out.
Yeah. I said to some friends, I didn't roll a single die, but I still felt like I played.
Oh,
That's fantastic.
The game, so
That's
thank
cool.
you.
Was such a wonderful character as well. So, and I think that is a whole other episode that we can talk about is how to involve people that aren't there. But speaking of involving people, Steve, Gerardo, I'm butchering that. I'm sorry. It's been a long day and I talk a lot. You were in the game last year as well and in this one, but your character is a little bit different in motivations. I mean, I think a lot of the others had very lofty ideals and Gerardo was somewhat less so, but how did you feel coming into this game, which the stakes were different as well?
Honestly, it was a little bit of a different approach. I'm mostly playing chaotic good and chaotic neutral characters, which Gerardo is, if you ask him at least.
From a certain perspective.
More of a lean towards what am I getting out of this? I'm helping these guys, sure, but what do I get if I come along? And it made for a very different character perspective and changed the interactions that we had with the other characters.
Yeah. And I think that was interesting because and you were with Sorcerer.
Sorcerer, that's right.
I'm sure sorcerers and wizards
sorcerer.
don't like to be. And sorcerers are all often played as almost outsiders, a little bit different. How did you find fitting into Ian's very epic storyline?
Honestly, adding a little bit of silliness to it made it a lot easier. And you're floating around on intelligence and just being a moron in the background while other people were talking about serious stuff was a lot of fun. And just added that little bit
The upside down. Yeah.
it's a very serious person who has a ruthless streak a mile wide. So that kind of, I think that helped him mesh in. He's not there for the same reason, but he is willing to work with other people, which is the only way the game works. If I was there trying to backstab the party and becoming the Lich King myself, it'd be a bit iffy, to be honest.
Yeah.
He was willing to sell his soul for the party.
Yeah,
well.
How was that?
That
That's the opposite. Actually, I'd be curious to talk about, we're all DMs and GMs. So, and I think that's a really nice segue into talking about that. How did you find coming in as a DM, aware that you have a character that could potentially derail a game if you wanted to? You know, not derail a game, but take it in a different direction. How do you think being a DM influenced your play?
That is an interesting question. It's mostly keeping in mind that we are all playing as a group and for fun as well. I mean, if I was coming in with a character that was secretly antagonistic, I'd probably want to have a chat to the game's GM, talk to Ian beforehand and say, look, I want to do this. Yeah. How could we make that work and still keep it fun for everyone else? Coming in with just the I'm secretly evil, I'm going to screw everyone would just really hurt all the work that Ian's put in and the rest of everyone's work. So I kind of wanted to be a little bit edgy, so to speak, but not ruin the experience for other people.
Yeah. And I agree. I think something that I discovered is that I tend to be very chaotic, but and have fun in that way a little bit. Here, try this potion, drink this. What is it? I don't know.
No regrets.
No regrets. But I think that's true. But I think that's true. Is there was that sense of kind of community and all pulling together. How about you, Paul, as well? So bringing that new character in. How did you feel bringing a new character in as a DM?
I felt all right about it. I had enough preparation for it, but I think what Stephen said is a good point. You're coming in, if you decide to have a lone wolf character, you need to still work with the rest of the party. And a lot of new players create lone wolf characters, but it's collaborative storytelling and it's the game. You're in a party, you're not one person. Otherwise, you might as well just go watch a movie.
Never
Yeah.
the
The
party.
movie's
Well
about one
said.
person, D&D's about the whole party. And
Yeah.
so even if you got that kind of, you're trying to fit in or whatever, you can be a lone wolf, but you still work with everybody else.
Absolutely. And I think that was something that I really enjoyed about this game is that we all have a really good connection with each other as players, but also as the characters. I think that was an interesting. Jared, is it Istrid or Yastrid at certain times?
Yastrid. When he went bedazzled. That's right.
Yeah. It's glittery. How did you feel coming in as a DM? And also someone who has worked very closely with Ian and myself, but Ian particularly as we go through in a number of different areas.
Yeah. It was easier the second time around. I would say first time there was a lot more anxiety of not knowing what to expect. But this time around, I took that nervousness and turned it into excitement because it was just about having fun with a really cool bunch of people who had a really concrete goal. So what else was there to be worried about other than just making sure that what I could do mechanically made a whole shorthand cheat sheet for myself about what I could do in various situations. So I guess through the DM filter that I have, I was always thinking about like what would be a cool way to engage, but also like narratively, when can I use certain skills that are going to be amazing? Like when I fell to 0 hit points and I just decided to not because I had that ability, and when I can become the Eldritch Champion and all of these things, I wasn't worried about how that was going to be necessarily that combat effective, but it's just what actually does my character do that represents my character is what I was going into. But yeah, that it was just really having that DM filter and having that perspective coming into it. But during it, I also felt, and I feel like it's something we could really talk about and have with Ben on the show about being a DM player, especially now. This is probably the first time I've played since that episode. So I had all of that conversation in the back of my mind, and I was aware of myself. What I felt like was rules lawyering and backseat DMing. But it was just
I like that now.
But it was just it was fun. And I've chatted to Ian afterwards and it was all good. I did it respectfully, and I think that's what I learned and took away from it at the end. So there you go. Going into it, during, and what I took away.
Yeah. Amazing.
Can I just say, I never felt you were backseat DMing and kind of like taking us on an. I never got a. No, I think you'll find the rule is this. I didn't think anything.
Actually,
it was really respectful.
Sorry,
it was really actually it was
that
great,
was-
and it helped.
And I
really
noticed like
helped
the
actually.
first time I actually said that. First time DM.
No,
But
it's
yeah.
so good because it's so nice when other DMs. It's actually for me knowing you guys know an amount of the rules at least. Even for, like you were saying, it's a first and second edition, but you knew the gist, particularly of some high-level spells and powers. So it's like, I know you got this, and I was like, oh, I've just made it so much easier. So, yeah, it's appreciated. Yeah,
It's like having a party of rules lawyers, really.
well,
that could be a game in itself. Yeah.
I mean, I still like
Respectfully.
respectfully, DM, but no. I'm actually interested. So, Paul, I know you're literally about to go into a game now. How do you find that you have to shift your mindset between being a player and being a DM?
Well, I mean, obviously as a DM, you have to be 1,000 players at once. I think that's the only difference is trying to focus on just my character.
Yeah.
And realizing I'm not in control, so my character doesn't have to talk all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the main thing, really.
It's funny, and I kind of asked that question with a bit of an ulterior motive because I found some of the kind of narrative focusing on one character harder. I was thinking about it. I find it much easier to think about multiple characters and all the different NPCs and the big story arcs when I had to think about just my character. And I think there was a time when Ian was like, Sarah, do you want to send a message? And I was like, no, I do not. Because I was like, one character, I couldn't think of what they wanted to say.
You're kind of closing your brain off a little because you don't have all that other freedom to just make things up as you go along.
Yeah.
You're trying to stay in one character the whole time.
Yeah, and I found that a bit of a block. I don't know if you guys felt that at all, or maybe it's just me.
No, I know.
Yeah, I did lots of improv.
It was fantastic. And the voices were amazing. It was so good.
That was very cool.
Yeah.
That was fun to play off as well, because I didn't get to do it as much as I would like to, but you guys did, which was so good.
No, it was good. How about you, Steve, as sort of going into that one character versus everybody in the world?
Honestly, I don't DM all that often. I don't have a regular game that I run at the moment, so it's not a huge step between LARPing, which I also do, and coming into D&D. It's just kind of thinking as that character, stepping into their shoes and going for it. As a DM, I find myself doing all sorts of silly and weird voices just to make the NPCs sound different. But it's not a huge step from a character to a DM for me.
Okay.
I find the thing with playing just the one character is that I always have all these chaotic ideas, and as a DM, I can incorporate lots of them in varying places. And you can have, some guy in a battle do something completely crazy because there's no after story to it. There's no that with my character and their motivations and their future and things. So I have to rein in the chaos into a specific path, I suppose.
I mean, I think that as well. I really liked the chaos, and there was a couple of moments as Ian is painting this magnificent story and this incredibly in-depth lore, and I'm like, I want to do something silly. Should I do something silly? I really want to do something silly.
That right there is Harado's job, thank you.
We can share.
Share rules.
Well, we did. I mean, we got that potion that you told me to shake after I drank it. So, a bit of appropriate chaos occurred there, I think.
I loved that moment where Irado was just floating upside down.
Yeah. That was enjoyable.
So, surely we can shake him afterwards.
I mean, I see no problem with that.
I thought that was a great character moment. There was that trust with Syrah and Harado after kind of working together in the tournament yesterday, inverted commas. And it's like, yes, I'll drink this mysterious liquid the lizard person's given me. Sure, why not? Yeah.
I definitely had that idea of, in movies and TV where the medical person, whatever it is, always just walks up and randomly injects the protagonist with something. Here, drink this, take this, have this. Oh, okay.
You might feel this, but you'll be fine.
Are you a licensed apothecary?
We don't have licenses.
Just on that, actually, there's in terms of the adapting and actually working with, I think having that group of you as well, that I felt I wanted to build the rapport, and I wanted to. You were saying about, was it safe to do something wild and crazy sort of thing? But it was like literally when you, Steve, said, okay, he starts floating and he doesn't mean to, but he's floating kind of off and he's a little bit top heavy. And I was like, okay. And I was like, I'm going to just go with it. And then that's why when there was that serious conversation happening with the Githyanki telling about why this is happening and why the stakes are so high, and then he floats by on a slant kind of like this, and I went, go with it, this is where we're at, this is and I feel like that's kind of what you have to do, because everyone was there, and it's like when it's serious it'll be serious, and it needs to be, when you have that just go with it, because it looks like everyone had a good time.
Just like kind of part of how life would be in a D&D world. Like there would just be some random shit happening and people floating by upside down as they participate in the conversation. Just why not?
I think if you don't roll with those situations, you're just kind of making your DM you're forcing it, and then the story doesn't go anywhere.
And it's not allowing the freedom for you guys, for the players, to be able to create and try things, and it's the group makes the culture of the story, really, isn't it? It's like the more freedom you have and openness to that, to then go with this, yes, and if you go with the yes and, just like yes, and then we can do this more and more. It just makes it its own thing, which was a lot of fun. Which is on that. I was going to suggest maybe we should talk about Steve's character Gerardo deciding to use his wish. So
yeah, let's talk about that.
I'm going to leave you guys to it because I have to go set up this game.
No worries.
Thank you so much for joining us, Paul.
Legend.
Thank you so much for playing with us. Absolute legend. Hope to have you back again.
I'm waiting for the next one. Absolutely.
Yes. All right.
Yes.
And we look forward to hearing what happens with the Red Dragon. I'm Team Red Dragon, just so you know.
See how fast they can talk.
Yeah.
Bye, guys.
See ya.
See you, Paul. Thanks, man.
And that is the eternal dilemma of the DM, having to jump between games. You either have all the games or none of the games. And here is Tobin sliding seamlessly into frame.
Oh, very nice. Yes. Very cool.
Oops, that side. Yes, so the wish. Tell us about that.
We did have a conversation about that. Ian and I had a chat about what I couldn't do, because I don't limit people like that, but I wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to.
Your sound has gone a bit strange.
Your audio is a bit funny.
Possibly.
Bear with me. We just had a
conversation. It's better now
for our game.
That's better.
So we'll wait a minute.
That's fine.
We did have that discussion between us to start with. Ian is not the type to tell me, no, you can't do that. That would do the wrong thing. But I also came into it thinking this is the most powerful spell a mortal can ever cast. I don't want to wish to, I wish the Queen was dead and just mess that up as well.
I wish we were done and we all have tea and scones.
Absolutely, yeah. So I just figured one of the big things that we went into this game thinking was we have to be really careful of our spells, our abilities, our powers, because we're not going to be able to rest. This is it. What we have to start with is not what we're going to finish with, so we have to be careful, which is why the first fight I felt was a lot more intense than we initially thought, because we were throwing out cantrips and simple spells at it, so we didn't waste anything. And then I had the thought, I wonder if I could get away with that. So I started throwing my higher level spells and all of that, and it just kind of worked out fairly well. Not so much for Gerardo needing a demon's help and kind of signing away his soul, but I felt like that was a way for us to just recover after that combat and move on with the game without going in without our high level abilities from there.
Yeah. How did you go, Ian, with having someone with a wish?
Well, we talked about this as well. Look, this is an exhibition game at 20th level. I want people to try the most powerful stuff you have. I want the Aldrich, whatever it is, champion that Istrid can become. I want to see, basically Wilder, yes, so good. Yastrid is back. But Wilder literally trying to be stunned or attacked or whatever and just going, just knocking things away because she's a monk. That's just the way it is. But it's a thing of a wish, and it's like you just want to see it happen. And it was similar with Paul because he is a 20th level cleric. He has divine intervention, which automatically works. And I was like, I had to think of some ideas of, okay, how does his god intervene? Since that didn't really happen, I'm not going to go into that. That'll be spoilers. But anyway, but for Steve, we talked about wish and we talked about what the limits in the actual spell say, which are really helpful. And then it says if it goes outside of that, then it may twist. So I actually had 3 levels of twisting, and it was like minor, quite powerful, and then just ridiculously like universe changing kind of thing. And
which level did I hit?
That middle.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, it was about middle because, and this was it. It was on the fly, and it was also, but it was story motivated. And we talked about this when we had the break because we'd just come out of the fight. You guys were exhausted, lost a lot of spells or powers, whatever it was, and it was more powerful than you expected. So you're like, okay, where to now? And Steve said, I'm so annoyed that I couldn't. 2 disintegrates they saved on like this with nat 20s or something ridiculous, and I tried another spell say like this, and he's like, what? And he was so, and I said, use that in the game that he's really pissed and he really wants to do something about it. And he said, well, I've got an idea for the wish. And then he said that, and I went, okay. And I thought there's some things here which make sense, but he wants to have like a full rest for everyone as if a day went past. And I was thinking straight away, meta, we're in the astral plane. That doesn't work. He would literally have to be ripping them out of there to be somewhere else, fast forward time and then put back. And all I could do was think, okay, I can see how that can happen, but there's got to be some flashback, and then I remembered his story. And this is why it's so good having hooks and background stories, because he said he won his Staff of Power specifically for a wizard who was serving Mephistopheles, an archdevil, and smashed him down and then killed Mephistopheles' avatar, sent him back to the hells with the very staff that Mephistopheles had given to someone. So he was pretty sure of himself, and I thought, yeah, an archdevil's not going to let that lie. So that's where it came in, and I thought this has got to, it's like you get it with this on the side, yeah.
I love it, especially for Gerardo with the acquisitions incorporated, the fact that everything has a cost. Like everything is a transaction. And sometimes I just thought,
it fitted so well.
Along with the contract.
Yeah.
Sure you can. Yeah. So, yeah. That was awesome. That was inspired the idea too, because it's like it's not the kind of wish I would have thought of. And you didn't plan that in advance. It felt like it. And that's what some of the most awesome stuff about role playing is, when these ideas just come up on the fly to deal with what you're dealing with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah, I did have some options beforehand. I was thinking maybe cast Simulacrum, double the power set, and so on, but I just thought flashing over the top, let's see what happens, and, well, kind of lost myself. But
I liked that because it meant that there was, in the story, there was genuine consequences for the characters, which, as I think we were saying, it fitted with those characters, which was fantastic. And I think that we all had, and this was something that I loved about the way you set things up, Ian, is that there was that one big moment, but none of them were without cost. Well, at least the ones that I know about, none of them were without the potential of a cost for that, the kind of Hail Mary moments, which I think is a really nice way to handle that high-level play when essentially your characters.
Yeah, what other moments did you feel that came up with?
For me, I think it was more possibilities. So the particular thing that Sarah had never came up. But
that's right.
Yeah, which I don't want to spoil either, because we'll bring that out. But again, it was a similar. We should keep playing next time.
We might have to do
the
a
next
follow-up.
level 20 game. Well, we have ideas for that. There is plans. But the same thing was, it was Sarah. It was something that was in keeping with Sarah's backstory and character, but it was something that would have a cost. And it was interesting when we had that conversation, Ian, about what I wanted to do. You said it was quite unexpected, which to me it wasn't unexpected for my character, which kind of brings up the different views that people can have of characters.
Yeah.
Which I think is quite at that level, because normally you would play through. Well, normally. One way to get to level 20 is to play through where you would intimately know that character. Whereas we were like, hey, we've played one game with these characters and now we'd like some story moments and RP.
Sorry, guys. On that note, we're going to have to deal with it.
Speaking of RP, thank you so much for joining us.
You guys are legends. Thanks for being here. Thanks for playing it.
Thank you for playing.
Definitely do it again.
So good. He said it. You guys heard it here. We'll definitely do it again. All right, enjoy your game. Good luck with the dragon. See you guys. Amazing. What a fantastic group of players.
Yeah.
So good that they were able to join us.
That was it was so good. And getting their feedback and just the insights into what it's like as a DM. It was so good to hear that, about that kind of juggling between thinking. I love how both of you said the same as well, that you feel like you couldn't just try lots of things. It's like, no, I'm just this character. And that's harder in a way. Yeah.
I really struggled with it. It made me realize how little I play. So I think that's the first game I've apart from the AI game that we did, that is the first game I've played all year.
Oh, wow.
As a player. I had an option where I almost got to play. I had a character sheet and I had my dice ready. And this was for a community game that I helped run, and there weren't enough people, so I was going to play, and then more people turned up and I didn't play.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was really, I struggled with that shift to just playing the one character. And it's interesting, like I really like Sarah as a character.
Yeah, me too.
They're quite different from me. But yeah, because it's easy to play a character who's more you. Sarah's nothing like me, but I really like them as a character. How did you find Jared playing Yastrid? I'm sorry, Yastrid is canon now.
It was just for reference. It was a typo in chat or an autocorrect something when we were prepping, and then it just became part of the character. But yeah, I would say we did the D&D thing. Like, definitely, I felt like my choices mattered. I felt like my character had a lot of agency. It was everything that I would have wanted to bring to a game. So that, if that's any indication, Ian, on how much I respect what you did, I felt so welcomed in that environment. So like I touched on, it was so good to just not only hang out with awesome people who we only get to touch lives with whenever we get together at Collecticon and sometimes other conventions.
So glad you clarified that sentence.
I had to finish that quickly. But, alas, we were able to actually get a bunch of dungeon masters together to play a game. Like, if we could just bask in that as well for a minute, because it was absolutely the most rewarding thing to be able to do. It's inspiring. Ian, you did an insane slog. Having done my insane Strahd, I know I was actually feeling the same sort of feelings when I was reaching that sort of time frame in my massive slog. So I can also appreciate that, and of course everyone who stuck as long as they could, and those of us at the end as well. It was just it
was great. I will say I don't play games that are that long. So my little flavor of neurodivergency means I can't focus for that amount of time. But I mean, Ian, you built this magnificent world, so I was able to stay involved. So that was quite a new experience for me. Is I'll normally wouldn't last more than 4 hours in a game. It's just
that was long.
That was long, but and we didn't plan that. We were like, right, we'll finish about 7:30. 2 hours later.
8:30 maybe if we had to. I was like, SpongeBob frame comes up. That was funny because that reminded me. When I was starting to play D&D, I used to have overnight sessions with friends that would go 12 hours. It's that whole thing of, it was just nuts because you had time when you were a kid. It's like you just didn't care, but can't do that. And it's like online, like this was, it was tough, but it was funny because everyone was so invested in enjoying it. It seemed to, I think it was that whole, everyone seemed to be okay with it. We kept checking, and I think that's what really made it okay. I don't think I could do that again that long. I just really, it was long, but it was nice. I think like you said, the whole idea of that we only have these characters once at this level, it's hard to really let them fly when you barely know them and you're getting to know them. And so, it's like, it was so good to see just that moment at the beginning. So, I was thinking, do I need to cut back from that intro? I thought, no, you guys have to have that time to just bond and role play. It's like before we actually dived into all the battle, because then when the battle came, you guys supported each other like nothing else, which was awesome. I
actually really appreciated that moment with you role playing as Wilder, because I think that was because one of the things we talked about that we wanted to bring out in this game was role play, and that's hard when we don't really have strong relationships between the characters developed through game. But I did really appreciate that moment because of the backstory that Smack and I had talked about, to have Wilder and Sarah have that connection, and you slipped into that character really well. So I thought that was great for me. But how did you feel doing that, playing a character of someone who was there in chat as well?
I think it might help having a performance background, because I just knew that I had to respect what the wishes she had for it. But I know that I also had tacit trust from Sarah that I could take that on. And that's the only way I could have done it. I wouldn't want to do it without permission. I would want to be able to. That's why I think it's very important. I think, as a DM, you have to get that if someone's going to be out and say, how do you want me to run the character? And it's like, literally, like Paul said at one point, if he felt really too overwhelmed, and I know he'd be okay with me saying this as well, he said, do you mind to step out? And I say, yes, and we'll find a way in character. You're a person of knowledge. you say you step out of this universe to commune with your God for a moment. So you're kind of this wispy vision that's floating with us that we can't interact with, but you're there. But it's good because then that also means I don't have to take that on. He feels fine that he can jump in whenever he wants to. But with Sarah, she was very clear to say, yes, whatever to involve it, particularly with your character, was a key thing. So it was... Yeah. And then doing it, all I thought was, well, what's a character? She's like this, has these insecurities, but she wants this. And so that's all I kept focusing on. Yeah. And that was fun. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that comes back to things we've talked about before when you're playing NPCs or PCs, but kind of is understanding that what they need, what they value, what they want. And it lets you be very authentic in that character, I think.
Yeah. You try your best. Anyway.
Yeah.
That's it. But it was so nice. I'm so glad we worked out those little messages that she'd be sending now and then to give updates, but also it progressed the story that...
I think mechanically that was really useful as well because, I mean, all of us players, the storytellers, we all want to get into things. But I think when we are, and this is something we didn't really talk a lot about tonight, but I think we should at some point, is the differences between an exhibition or a show type game, whereas one you're just playing for your friends. Because we were quite cognizant, I think, of the fact that this is an exhibition type game.
Yeah.
You know, if we could do it live, we'd be up on a stage, we would have certain time frames, and having that mechanical extra message that comes through, hey, you guys need to move along. It gives a very natural, organic way to keep the story going. If there's moments where maybe through no fault of anyone's own, just because we get really excited and it's shiny rocks, we might get bogged down in things. So I thought that was a really clever way of having that mechanic, which we didn't even plan. You know, it just
that was kind of
out.
On the day because of the response to Sarah being sick. That was actually, which was nuts. It's funny. How about you, Joe? Did you feel similar about actually what your thoughts on the difference between an exhibition game versus a game that you're just doing with friends?
I mean, I guess, I always feel like when I have like streamed games as well, just even like that would be a weekly thing. I definitely feel like, my performances, everything's a little bit more amplified because the stakes are slightly higher. It's kind of like getting, it like almost gets me in flow state, like a little bit easier, a little bit quicker and things like that.
Yeah.
Because I know that it's like, okay, we just have to like go, like synergize and do everything.
Yeah.
So and we had a goal and we had a focus and everything. So that's kind of that feature. Whereas like, I guess when it's a weekly game, you're bringing in different things constantly. You're trying things out. There's no particular goal to achieve necessarily. Each session and each prep that you do should, I think, have a goal and a theme and a tone and all of these things. Like, what is this episode of, The Simpsons or of a Star Trek series? There is a self-contained story in a lot of those episodes with an overarching narrative. Whereas we need to fit as much narrative, story, and wonderful role-playing things, which again, like you were saying, Thea, some of it happened organically, some of it we had to make do because of things that came up. So there was just so much scope to this, not just Ian's amazing efforts and everyone trying to run a level 20 character and it all just somehow working. That alone was great, but there was so much more to it, and everyone reacted so appropriately as this conversation has gone on. That's what I've been just absolutely admiring, is how much learning we all went through. So I'm so glad we understood as well about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of sort of the debrief, that's probably a good time to kind of start wrapping up because we are starting to get to our end of the time. It's the end of time, guys. I'm sorry to break this to you.
Well, it's been a great run.
It's been a good run. We've had some fun. But I think that the final reflections, would we do this again?
You first, Jared.
No, but
would you want to do this again, first of all?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, if you want me to answer, it sounds like everyone liked that game, and I know I did. I don't know if I'd do it as an exhibition game again. I'd actually like to do this with you guys, but if there's interest in it, it could be. It could be something we do as a weekend one. If it was streamed, we could do that, and I'd be less focused on an exhibition game, but more just to enjoy it.
More just playing.
And I'd be happy to play those characters again to continue their story. And if you wanted to investigate the palace more, we could certainly have a look at a way to get involved there.
I mean, you put so much work into the palace. There's so much we have to explore.
If we wanted to, yes. But I'd be open to it for sure. Yeah. But I think for the next CollectorCon exhibition game, I'm playing. I'm standing back.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to play a game for a change. Yeah, that would be good.
I don't think I've ever seen you play as a player, Ian, so I want to see that as well.
I played in your game. Yeah.
When did you play in my game?
You did the one which was like not a Santa, not a Christmas one. It was...
Oh, the Christmas one. There was, I've done a holiday one. I've done an Easter one and a Christmas one. Was there a killer Christmas tree? Anyway.
Something. Yeah, I played in that. But I'm keen as, yes.
It's been too long. It's been far too long.
Yeah.
I guess for me, my reflections are, it's very interesting. I realize that I think I'm a better DM than I am a player. And that could be a practice thing.
I don't know.
I think it is.
I think you're a good player.
I don't play that often. So getting into that mindset.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You are. It's only because I swear we DM so much. We don't have the opportunity, and it's like you want to. You just do it. You're good. Like, you guys are awesome, and it's like DMs should play more when they get a chance. It makes it so much easier.
I think it does. I think DMs as players, you have that level of sensitivity to what the DM is trying to achieve, that it just adds to that collaborative element that's present in all tabletop. Like, all tabletop is a collaborative effort, but I think sometimes when you have people who have run the game, it just adds something a little bit extra.
That's all right. How about you, Jared? You want to play this again? Do you want to run it? Play that.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I'm envisioning this being a thing that we consistently revisit, and it'll be like a little social pillar thing, but it's not going to be like a full-blown show. But maybe, like, I think Comic-Con Sydney's in like 2 weeks, so I have not booked stage time. I really wanted to do that for us. We could have like a segment on the community stage. It would be really cool. But I will plan
that would be amazing.
So not going to say that we can make this amazing in a year's time, amazing enough to be completely featured on like a big stage at Comic-Con. How cool would that be?
We could do a little stage.
Putting the ideas out there.
Yeah.
We could, I mean, I could section off I could section off a whole area of the D&D just for us to show off a really cool experience for people. And Ian, if you're ready to,
great.
If you wanted to hand over some portion of your wonderful world and universe that you've created, your version of all of these events, your astral elves that are good. Guys, what is that?
That's right.
But we
can
narrative.
We've had some discussions about how this could work, but spoilers.
Yes.
But yes.
That sounds cool. Yeah.
There is, I think it was an amazing experience that I think we all would like to do again. However, speaking of amazing experiences, this amazing experience is coming to an end.
That was great.
Everybody in chat.
Thank you in chat.
Here. Hello, Frodo with a beard. Is your first time chatting. I hope you do find a game. Hang out with us in Discord. Obviously, a lot of our stuff is online, but there's a lot of great people in this community who can give advice on finding games or just talking about gaming, because let's face it, that's kind of fun too.
Yeah.
What are we doing next week?
Oh boy,
Jared,
we don't.
Oh boy,
we're going to do a stream. Ian's going to be away. Ian's flying away.
I'm off to Japan, which is the first time, and so fittingly, I'm hoping anyway for the next couple of weeks I'll be away. But we've gotten in touch with a fellow CollectorCon GM who flew away for his own work to Japan over 18 months ago. Atul Vidata, and he's a fantastic guy, and he's going to join us next week. So I will be in Japan. I'm hoping I can meet him face to face. He's in Japan. We'll be on here with these awesome folks. we'll have a chance to catch up and ask him a bit about what's tabletop role-playing like in Japan. He already had some interesting things to say, but we'll leave that for him to bring up for next week. Yeah.
It is very exciting. If you're new to the channel, we do have season 1. We are in season 3. We have season 1 up on YouTube. Season 2 will eventually get there. We just don't want to rush things, and by us, I mean me. We have Discord. Please join us on the Discord where we continue the conversation. We have a lovely community that is ever growing of wonderful people who really enjoy tabletop games, really enjoy all sorts of cool, amazing stuff. I was about to say really enjoy each other and realized that's not something I need to be saying online. So it's nearly as bad as reaching out to touch each other with consent in a psychological way, in an emotional sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nobody said it.
Yeah.
But yes, please do join us on the socials. Any other things before we wrap, my most excellent compatriots?
No, thank you once again, Ian. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And we will see what comes of this in the future.
Absolutely. I just want to say, you've been thanking me a lot for it. And it was a long game and it was a big game. It was something I was so looking forward to do because it looked so much fun. And you guys were so invested as well. So thank you. And thank Sarah and Steve and Paul for getting on board and just making it what it was. And it looks like it could be something we could do again. And anyone who wants to do a 20th level game, try it. Just do it and go mad. Just go wild and try it. It's worth it. So can't wait.
Plug for Collecticon, given that's coming up this weekend. If you are in New South Wales, South Sydney area, or just Sydney area, Jared, plug away.
Oh, yes. Get out to Penrith. It's going to be a good time.
Wow, okay.
It's going to be great. No, Collecticon is an amazing local convention. It's kind of like Comic-Con, but a lot more hardcore, focused on collectibles, from comic books to baseball cards and Matchbox cards. It is a one-stop shop for a whole bunch of amazing booths and people who craft their own things, artists. I love to get some local made art, get some prints and support these guys who do incredible work. So you can just get an amazing amount of culture. There's a whole bunch of stuff. People do cosplay. It is our local little kind of Comic-Con-esque thing, but that's 2 weeks away. We're not talking about it. So
and
you can come
we'll
play
talk about
D&D.
that next week.
And there's D&D Aaron tables, and they've got luchador wrestling as well, which is fantastic.
Oh, they do too. Amazing.
An entire
amazing.
Check that out. It's too.
You can go and check out.
It's very exciting. Website is in the chat. Please do join us if in the area.
And thank you, chat. Elwaz, Fredo with a bit. Anyone else we've missed on there? Thanks for joining us.
Elwaz, Frodo, Boo Radley. Always a pleasure to hang out with you guys. We are going to raid. We love you all very much. We will see you next time. Bye.
Thank you, guys.